Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's March 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And crazy day. We recovered a good bit of it. Man, this thing really sold off today. It was very bearish early morning. We dropped all the way to 57.40, which made a new low below this previous low here. Again, we did recover a good bit of it, but it still was a crazy day. I mean, such a huge sell off and then a rally, and then we sold off again. Then we rallied some more before the close. So we'll flip over there and you'll see what it looks like on the 2000 tick chart. But this was a wild and crazy day, and we're even right now we're still extremely oversold. So just looking back at this contract previously, I don't think it's. You can see we did get oversold, very similar to that back in August. So this looks like a very similar sell off to what we had in August so far, and you can see the recovery we made after that. Now, will we do the same thing here? I don't know. I mean, most breakouts fail, so I would expect this to fail, even if only temporarily, if we, to relieve some of the oversold conditions and to come back and retest the breakout. But we'll just have to see. I mean, I don't know what to expect with this market. It's just crazy. A lot of negative news going on. I'm not convinced the news is as bad as they're making it sound. It's kind of just the opposite of what we had before. All the news was hunky dory and things were not nearly as good as what they were. And now the press is totally bearish and totally negative. And is it as bad as they're making it out to be? Probably not. So we'll see what happens. Um, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I've learned not to listen to the news because they always have it wrong, and you can't believe half of what they say. So anyway, there it is. Very bearish day that we recovered. I'd say we recovered 60% of it, 70% of it, maybe. I'd say 60. 50% is probably right in here somewhere. So a little more than 50% of it, maybe 60%, which is not great, but still pretty good recovery from where we started. So anyway, let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and we'll take a look at it and go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. Okay, here it is, and you can see no real news items. Of course, the president speaks tonight. We'll see what happens tonight. Maybe he'll say something that'll rally the market tomorrow. And that's what the news will probably say if we rally. But, as oversold as we are, we're probably overdue for a rally, even if it's only a 1 day rally. So, but we'll see. Also, real quickly, there's a possibility I may have to take off Friday. We don't do chart lessons on Fridays anyway, but anybody listening that follows the website and my mid-morning report, uh, it's a possibility if I take off that won't be there. I'm not 100% yet, but I'll let you know Thursday if I'm going to be back in Friday or not. But I got some personal issues with my mother. Most of you know my mother's had some health problems, and I've been having to take care of her and make some tough decisions with my mom, and something's come up with her possibly for Friday. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But anyway, here's the chart. You can see we had this huge sell off. We had a break here. We never could make a new low. I believe this bigger channel is accurate. We get a couple of touches here, and it does come back and confirm it. But and you can see we're working around the midline, and you can see we're working back off this line, and it tries to retest that, but we were just so oversold. A lot of buying's coming in down here, and we rallied really strongly, and then suddenly that rally ran out of steam, and boom, the bottom just falls out of it again. And then just prior to the close, I guess all the people that were getting short in here maybe are taking profits. I don't know it. Whatever, people are just exiting, and maybe some people are trying to take advantage of the oversold situation, and it rallies back and takes a lot of this sell off back here, maybe a little more than half of it. And we probably took a little bit, like I said, a little bit more than half of the original sell off back. This is tough trading. Even this rally, when it's as strong as it is, and you can see there's a lot of mixed trading in there and some big sell-offs. It's just tough trading. So if you're struggling to trade right now, don't force trades. Just be patient. There's plenty of good trades out there. Just be patient. I only need one or two of them every day, so just don't get in a hurry to enter a trade. And make sure it's a sure thing that your reads are easy. When you get in these tough places where it's chopping sideways and there's no real direction, just be very careful. And you're better off to miss a trade than to tend to take a loser. It's just simple as that. And as strong as this downtrend was, there's just not a lot of entries in here. It's frustrating, I know, but it's just the way it is. And so you just have to sit tight. You can see how it's sideways, and I mean, it's just hard trading. It really is. And there may be another shorter term channel across here. It appears that maybe it is. And you can see that, and we are working both sides of that across there. Problem is it just keeps going. So, the more you put on here, the more crowded your charts gets and the more confusing it gets. I just think the best thing to do is play these shorter term things and try to find the main big pattern and go with it. And that's kind of what I did here. So early on here, we were working sideways before, and all we had was this channel down. So you're really playing this at this point, and it looks like maybe it's going to be over. But we continue to just, so you know there's got to be a bigger pattern there of some type. And so just look for what you can find and kind of go with it. But 7 o'clock came just kind of as we're coming down and trying to bottom out here. And I don't think you want to try to buy down here, so just let this correction happen and then maybe try to get short on the retest. This one was very tempting right here, I think, but I don't think there's enough room to get out if I remember right. It's the reason I didn't mark it. Well, there is enough room there. The problem, I guess the main problem is that you don't, this is the first close outside, so it's likely to go higher. But, at the time, this looks like a good trade, and this thing had been very bearish. So, I mean, that's a possibility. If you went short there, maybe you take that. And the reason you can't go long is because you don't get a break above this one, and then this one's an inside bar. Now, once again, it's another one of those that, hey, if we break above that and you've got enough room, it's probably going to go higher. It's probably going to try to make a new high. So it's another one that maybe you enter. You're going to, but even if you enter there, you have to put your stop here. So there's going to be a bunch of these that I didn't mark that are possibilities, but you're better off just to wait on the sure thing. And then notice you finally do run to a new high, and then you try to push up one more time, and you get a nice bearish bar way away from the EMA, and you're expecting prices to try to retest this low, and you get a pretty good move down there, and then it bounces at this support again. And again, there's another little inside bar there, but I don't think I would take that one. I think I would sit tight, and it breaks out, and notice you got this new high, and you try to go higher once, twice, and that's about the third time. So really, you're just trading another breakout here. Now, it's close to a triple test, but it's not technically a triple test, so I just mark that one green. You're better off to wait on the lower high, which never comes. And you drop down here, and you still don't have a new low, and you're chopping sideways again. This one's very tempting, but there's just not enough room to get out there, and it could bounce. It doesn't. You do get this lower high here that it's very tempting to take that trade, and it would have worked, but it's never a good idea to go short at the very low of a move, because more times than not, it'll snap back and then turn down. It'll stop you out and then go exactly where you think it's going to go. So I don't think you want to enter there either. And it makes a couple more moves, finally finds a bottom here, and you get a trend working higher. Normally I'd tell you to skip this second entry, but we've got the break. We've got to move to a new low. This thing keeps trying to bounce. Um, you've got a double bottom and a new low here, and you got a first entry, second entry. So you got a failure there, kind of at a reversal point. It's not a perfect setup for a failure, but it's also a second entry. Again, there's probably just barely enough room to scalp out. So it's not perfect, but it's one that if you catch it just right, it might turn out to be a good trade. So, and there's actually a triple test right across here, but you got to go high right into, I'm sorry, you got to go long at the highs right into that midline. So just skip that. I just think you have to skip it. And you do get a break there in the new high, and you're just kind of chopping along, and then suddenly it just kind of reverses here. But you get this move down, you get a break really quick. That's just a first entry. You might say, hey, there's a first entry, second entry, so that's a failure, but it's on the wrong side of the EMA. So again, it's not ideal. I think you're better off to skip it. You get another lower high here, and the bottom just falls out of it, but there's no setup. And so now you got a break of this one and a couple of swings to a new low, and we're working higher again. And you do get a first entry, second entry, but that signal bar is not good enough. You get a higher low. Well, technically it's not a higher low because it actually goes lower, but it's another chance to enter. And again, the signal bar is no good. And then by here, you've moved too far, and you've already made your new high. So this just kind of chops sideways, and then it breaks out. And of course, that we expect that to fail. But when it turns down perfectly right off that trend line, normally I'd say this would probably be green and you'd wait on a lower high, but because it's right off that main trend line and confirms it finally, I like going short there. And that turns out to be a great move. That just further confirms that's probably the confirmation of your main trend line. And this runs down pretty hard. You get a break, move to a new low, or does it bounce right off the midline? I don't think I'd go long here, even though it's a second entry and this has played out short term, because it could trap you and make another leg down, whatever. Uh, this thing is really bearish, so I think I would just sit tight. There is a lower high, and that is a second entry there. Again, it's not a perfect setup. It's an engulfing bar, and you don't want to enter. You got to wait till that closes, and then there's not a whole lot of room left. So once again, I think you have to skip it. And you run down, you make a new low, and you really get a triple test. And this is a higher low, but again, it's just so congested. If you draw your little range, it just looks really, I mean, we're way away from the EMA, and this has played out here. So there's a chance you're going to get another leg up. So if you've got enough room there and you really want to be risky, maybe you take that trade. Again, I'd skip it. You could argue there's a second entry short there, but the channel's still in play, and that's a very bullish bar, and the bearish one's inside. Lower high here, but it's no setup, too congested. And then look at this, just sideways. Now you do get that break higher that fails and turns down, but you can't enter that on the engulfing bar, and you really, because you don't want to go short right into the support. And by the time this closes, you're going short at the very low of a bar that's 30 ticks almost. And so who wants to do that? That's just too dangerous. And so again, no setup there. And this channel runs down, gets a break, and here you finally get a first entry short that closes outside the trend line, tries to make a new high and fails, and you get a second entry short. Now I did mark this one. Technically it's not perfect either, but it's a second entry short, and there's a bit of a trap there most likely. So I marked that one. Maybe I should have marked it green. It probably should be green because it's not perfect. I thought I did mark it. And again, your safety stop would have to go above this bar, but you're going to enter one tick below that one. So really what you're doing is just combining these two bars, and you see you get a bearish bar. And it's a second entry short. And that runs on down. Doesn't quite make a new low, and you get another trend working up, close outside, new high. And this one does make a new high, so I like this one to go short on. Technically, this is not a second entry. You get a first entry, second entry, but that's the first close. It does make a close outside and a new high all in one bar. So once again, it's another one you could say maybe you go short there, but you see what happens. It runs up and it makes a new high, and that's why you got to be careful with those. So I didn't really mean to mark that. I just wanted to point it out. So you're better off to wait here, and even then, if you got a lower high, would be better. But I think you're safe to go short on this one because you've got two legs up and then a little trap for it looks like it's going to be a failure. And if you're paying attention, you're just making your new high on this channel. And then with Jada going down, you get a break. There is a second entry short here. That one looks a little congested. It's right into the midline. It's getting late in this trend. It's another one that you could maybe argue to take, but I'm not crazy about it. And of course, the lower high, by that time, you've got too much support across here on this lower high. And it does break on lower, but it doesn't go far. And now you got another trend working up. And you get a close outside, move to a new high. But again, no setup there. This is your signal bar. This is a big inside bar. And by this time, it just looks totally sideways and congested. Again, it takes off, but you just can't argue for that. It's just, you're really pushing your luck there. And it's a great trend down, but there's no real way to enter it. There's no good setups. Now you might say here, this has been a strong trend. This looks like another strong move down, and you could argue there's a reversal there. It's not really where you're looking for one, but you might argue for that, as I'm always talking about. Any good signal bar that comes back, you could take. That one's questionable if it gets back, but still maybe. And see, here's another one, but you can clearly see that looks congested. I think it still would have probably worked, but let's just see if it would have worked. Most all of them do. I mean, it works exactly 6 ticks. You get your scalp and nothing more, and then it reverses. You get 2 legs back. And unfortunately, you don't get a good signal bar here on the second entry short. Bottom drops. And then we rally up out of here, and you're just working sideways here. I like this one because you get you actually get a quadruple test here. Again, it doesn't break higher till the next bar, so I marked it green. But I like that because it's obvious they're going to have to at least fail it out the top before they're going to go any lower, because they've tested this 4 times now and can't get through. But instead, it takes off. They must have trapped a lot of shorts here, or a lot of these people that were getting short, or this spooks them out because they don't see this bigger channel here. And now we get a break of that bigger channel, but look at this green channel working up. It looks like maybe there's an overshoot there, but it's so close it's hard to know. So I'd wait to see if you get a move to a new high, and you do. You actually get 2 legs up to a new high. And while that's technically not a second entry short, it's still a 2-legged jog way away from the EMA. Big bearish bar. It does make a new high. I like that one because we're expecting prices to try to make a new low. But lo and behold, this trend line still holds. That would be the key here. You want to have room back to the EMA and the trend line. If this was real close, I'd probably say no, it's too congested, skip that. But the way it sets up, I really like it. And if this wasn't such a huge bar, I'd say maybe go long above it, but you're right back up here near a triple top. And you see how it fails momentarily. It still would have worked on you, but a lot of times it won't, especially when you're looking for a retest of the low of this bigger blue channel. So, but it continues to work on up. No setups there. They're all just first entries. There's a second entry here, but not a good enough setup. And then now you've got you confirm the trend line working down, and then you get a second entry short with a nice signal bar. I like going short there. This one might have been hard to get into. Try it when it gaps over like that. Try to drop a limit order where you would have gotten filled anyway and see if you can get filled. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Um, Even though by the counts this would give you a second entry, don't take it. It's an inside bar too, because I would count that as a new low, and that's just a first entry, and it looks congested. It moves on down, lower high here, but we move too far, and we bounce. And finally, we get a break here. And notice this channel working up. You get a close outside, move to a new high and a second entry short with a nice signal bar way away from the EMA. Go short right there. Nice setup. There was another one here, or actually maybe this was just the first entry. Not a good enough signal bar anyway. And we're chopping sideways, and then we get another failed breakout here. There's a second entry, but we don't really care about second entries in a tight range like that. But notice the trend up. We get a close outside and a new high, and it's the second entry. I like going short there, way away from the EMA. We run down here. We get another bounce. We do have a break and a new low, and all these bounces across here. I didn't mark this one, but I think you could take that trade. We're in such a strong downtrend. I'm only going to mark it green because you see here, here's another one. The thing is, we just notice how they couldn't take this lower. What they'll often do when they get strong support like this is that they'll fail it out the other side, and they'll use that failure to pick up momentum and to also trap longs that are taught. You'd be surprised how many trading strategies tell you to buy on the breakout or to sell on the breakout and put your stop on the other side. Well, that's exactly what happens here. They buy on this side, they put their sell stop over here, and there'll be enough buying to let it break out, and then suddenly they'll start selling and it reverses, and you see the momentum it picks up. But even then, it still was too much buying coming in. They still couldn't break it out, so they had to do it a second time, and then they finally got it through. And this is when they made the new low here on this channel, and it looked like we were going to rally, but this thing just keeps it tests this low again before it actually reverses, and we get into a longer turn. But that's how these ranges work. So almost all breakouts fail, and so it's dangerous going long here, in my opinion. And you can see this one I think still works, but it would have been really close. You can see there's more than 2 points. When they broke it out a second time and it failed, I probably wouldn't even, personally, I probably wouldn't even buy that one. I'm not going to mark it. I didn't mark it originally. But that's why, even though there's 4 tests there, if you took it, it worked. And if you took this one, it worked. But I think they're dangerous because you see what happens. They run it on down here. Now down here, you got a triple test and a nice bar way away from the EMA. That's a different story. Now you expect prices to at least snap back to the EMA. So if you got plenty of room there, you take that one. And this turns out to be a nice move that runs all the way back up here to the highs, and you get a close outside and a couple of moves to a new high, but you just don't get a setup up here. Then it runs down, close outside again. You get a second entry short, but no setup. And this thing kind of jogs lower, and no reversal down here this time either, but it just reverses. And now we're kind of chopping sideways. And you got a higher low here with still room to get out. That's why I marked that one. Very good signal bar. You don't know that it's going to take off like this, but you're just playing the range here. And we traded up into this one, so there's a good chance even if it's going to turn down, you'll get another leg up like that. So let's see what kind of, that would have been your first one. And you can see you pretty much got a measured move there. But it ends up going higher still yet. So we came back and we tested that same support again. So I like going long again. Plus, you can clearly see the channel there, and that's the first break. So we'll probably retest that high. And we actually get a couple of moves up. I don't see anything else there that you can trade. You get another break. And there's another second entry here, but no setup. turns down, and then all of a sudden it looks like, hey, maybe there's a flatter channel here. I don't think you want to go long right there, but you go ahead and draw your channel and let's just see what happens. And you can see there is a channel, and you get a move up here. Second entry long, move to a new high, and then you're working down. And that signal bar is no good there, so even though it's a second entry, I don't think you want to enter there. It's played out. The green channel's played out. Now you got this khaki one coming down, and you get a break. Attempt to go to a new low, and it bounces again, and then this is just too choppy. There is a second entry. I mean, technically that's not a second entry because it's a first entry, second entry, third entry, but that's too congested there and sideways. It does look like you're kind of working lower, but I'd just sit this one out. And then you get a triple test down here, and now you're in this bigger uptrend, and it bounces right off the trend line as well. So I like going long on that one. And, you know, maybe it just goes back to the top of the range, but maybe it takes off. But it just appears to go back to the top of range and then turn back down. And we actually get a failed breakout here to the low side. So again, remember what we talked about? A lot of times they do that to take it higher. And that's what ends up happening. Notice you get a triple test here. I like going long just to trade back into the range. And a lot of times these are important lows because they reverse it and it takes off. And that's what happened here. This is an important low and it takes off. Can you get a runner here? Maybe. It depends on how you played it. But there's a good chance you maybe get a runner there. And you could ride, most people may not ride this out, but there's a second entry here, but I think that's too sideways and congested. You might say, okay, there's a reversal pattern here too, but I think you had to enter on this bar for that, and that's an engulfing bar, and I don't know if I want to enter with it closing right into the midline, because it still would have worked, but I think you're just better off to sit tight. If you didn't get in down here and have a runner, I'd sit tight. And it just takes off. You don't get another chance to enter until it's over. But notice this is like a spike, and these are like two separate channels here, really. And you got this one work it up. You get a close outside, a couple of swings to a new high, and you get a big bearish bar right off the high. And you've had your break of this channel and a new high, and you're way away from the EMA. That's a good place to go short, just to ride it back to the EMA, and maybe it reverses. And it does. You just get another channel here, but you get a break, a couple of swings to a new low. And again, there's a second entry short here, but too congested. You've already had your break and a new low. Just sit tight. And notice there's two measured legs down, and then it reverses again. So this is going to be a separate channel most likely. And this is like a little spike and channel up. There's a second entry here, but at this point you're just playing this short-term channel here, and you've already had a break and new high, and so this looks really congested. I just sit tight on that. Then you get another first entry, second entry, no setup, first entry, first entry, first entry, first entry, and then finally you come back, you get a channel down, a close outside. It tries to make a new low, but it gives you a triple test, and it also gives you a little two-legged jog, which even though that technically by the counts, that's not a second entry, I'd treat it like two legs and a triple test right at the key entry point, and so off it goes. I like going long right there. There's a higher low here, but you've already gone, it really set up here, and you don't want to go, this is why you don't want to go long at the high of a move, because it takes a little jog, comes back, stops you out, and then goes exactly where you think it does. You'd be better off to enter here, and that's an inside bar, not a very good signal bar. We do get a little close outside here as well. It's not convincing, so is it a true close outside? Maybe, maybe not. I actually believe it is, because if you adjust this and draw it like you really should draw it, I think you got a better close outside there, and you get the move to a new high and it reverses. Now, again, I did not mark this one. Maybe you take that because you do have a couple legs up to a new high, and the problem is you don't have a close outside on this little channel yet, but it looks like you have an overshoot here maybe. So this is questionable, but it is a double top too, and it's a little ways away from the EMA, so you may take that trade. It's like 8 ticks, so it's fairly low risk for a day like this, and it's a nice move down. You try to go higher once, twice. It's just a first entry though, another first entry, and then you're just kind of jogging along. I thought maybe you might get a triple test here, but it never comes. We do reverse, but you don't get that triple test. This is all too congested here. We do get a channel working down here. Correction, close outside, new low, and it bounces, but no setup. You do get a higher low here, though, right off the key entry point. I like going long on that one. It comes back and tests it again, but you'll have to go long at the high of the move. It's not a good idea. Runs up, finally comes back down. Notice how it doesn't get to the upper side of the trend channel, and then you get a break. That's a clue that it's losing some steam here. And you get the close outside. You don't quite get a new low, but it takes off. You do get a higher low here, and that's moved a long way for a higher low, so I don't think you want to trade that as a higher low. But if you come over here and count, you get a first entry pullback, so a break above that is a second entry, and there's plenty of room. So I still like that trade. It does make a new high right here and pull back, so that's just a first entry. Then you get a little two-legged jog. Now you've already had a break and a couple of swings up to a new high, so every entry after this starts to get more dangerous. But there's another second entry. If it had a perfect signal bar, I'd say maybe you take that without much worry, but it's not even a good signal bar, so I'm not crazy about that entry, but it turns out to be a really nice move. And so you run to a new high, and you actually get an overshoot here and a big bearish bar way away from the EMA. You'd be better off to wait on a lower high here, because picking tops in a rally like this is dangerous. So I think I think you could take this. And notice too, here's the other key why I like this one. Notice where it bounces. If you notice what this line is, that's the close from yesterday. Now this big move had left this huge gap on the chart, but notice where this move went to the tick. That's why this probably sold off so strongly, because they filled that gap, and that was probably the sole goal of that whole struggling move up, was to fill that gap on that chart. And that's another reason I like that trade. And you see what happened. If you took that, you could have ridden this all the way till at least till you got a break, and probably all the way till you got a new low. And this, of course, this is well after 2:30, but it's not even quite 3 o'clock yet. So you could have held on to this till it starts rallying. So that just keep that in mind. That's what they were attempting to do, fill that gap. This morning I thought there's no way they'll fill that gap today. I thought we'll probably get a rally, but they won't fill that gap. And lo and behold, they filled the gap. I mean, it looked like they were going to take the whole move back. But as soon as they filled that gap, look at it go. Once we started getting close, the bulls were just sitting here the bears were just sitting here waiting to sell, and it starts picking up momentum. Look at the momentum on those moves down. Crazy. But that's what it was. They saw that that was a target, and we fulfilled that target, and there it went. But there's how I saw it today. We're 33 minutes in. This is a crazy, crazy day. Hopefully this volatility will slow down soon, and we'll kind of get back to a normal. I mean, it's very rare that you get a trend that's that strong down, and then that strong up, and then that strong down. Usually when you get one that's really strong, it just keeps going that same way the whole day. It might have a little correction here and there, but then you get another measured leg down. Or if it's up, you get another measured leg. But we're not seeing that right now. We're just seeing crazy reversals that go. I mean, that is a huge. Let's just look at this. I mean, from where we closed yesterday, we dropped 130 points. And then right back up 131 points, and then right back down 107 points. And I mean, we probably got another 50 on the way back up here. 72. I can remember when 20 points was a big move day in the ES not that long ago. That tells you the difference between then and now. And we'll go back to that eventually. I mean, I've seen the market do this and then go long periods where 20 or 30 points in a day is a big move. And it does that for a year or two, and then suddenly it gets crazy again. And I mean, but this is starting to look. I mean, today looks a lot like COVID days did every day during COVID. It was like this all the time. And you have to be a really good trader to trade this. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, there's some great moves here, but they're hard to catch. They're not great setups. So they just reverse and go just like this. I mean, that is a super strong trend that just in a second was racing in the other direction. I mean, literally, we topped out here around, we just call that 1424. And in 10 minutes later, we're 50 points lower. And like I said, 50 points would have been a huge move a few years ago in one day, and that was in 10 minutes. Just be careful. The point I'm making is that this, if you're struggling in this environment, don't beat yourself up too bad because this is hard trading. And it turns on a dime and it rockets up. I mean, look at that move up and then look at that move down. And then, I mean, this is just hard trading. And it's easy. Most people learn in, this is a great environment to learn in because when it slows down, it's going to be like taking candy from a baby. But learning in this is hard to learn. It's hard to learn. So you need to be on the simulator. Most of you shouldn't be trading live. I mean, a lot of people have contacted me about going live lately, and they think they're ready, and maybe they are. I'm not saying they're not, but most people think they're ready long before they are. And so I would say at least if you're going to start trading live right now, if you're one of the handful of people that contacted me lately and you're going to start trading live now, I would at least go live in the MES right now and not the ES. Don't risk all your trading capital in this crazy environment. At least start in the MES, and that way you may not make you're not going to get rich trading in the MES, but you'd be surprised it adds up if you're good enough to do it. I mean, if you can make $30 or $40 a day, $50 a day, it adds up. If you can make $25 a day trading for an hour or two, it adds up. And so, but the big thing is you don't lose. You don't lose all your money in a one or two trades or a dozen trades when you're trading the MES. You're not going to lose a lot of money. You're not going to make a lot of money, no, but you can make money and you can trade live and you can get your feet wet without risking all your trading capital and lose it all in a week or a few days. So that's the difference. So that's why I recommend that. Anybody smart would start in the MES right now, and once you prove you can do it there, then jump over to the ES. It's a simulator, MES, ES. And at any point, even if you're up to the ES and you start struggling, don't keep beating your head against the wall because you'll lose confidence, and losing leads to losing and brings more losing because you get down on yourself and you get spooked and you get scared and you lose your confidence. If you start struggling, you have two or three losers and you've been doing well, just take a break, go back, step back to the MES if you're in the ES, or maybe all the way back to the simulator. And if you're in the MES, definitely back to the simulator and get your confidence back, and then come back in the MES for a week or two and make sure you've really got it going. Then kick back to the ES again. People think that once they've gone live, they can, that's baby talk to go back to the simulator or to step back. That's people. I've had people get offended because I suggested that when it was the exact thing they should be doing. But anyway, it's people people just don't want to hear that, and I'm sorry, but that's the truth. I've been there. There's times I get on my mind gets distracted and I have a loser or two, and then I lose my confidence. And I'm not afraid to step back to the MES for a few trades to get my confidence back, or if I need to go all the way back to the simulator. I mean, I hadn't been to that point in a long time, but a lot of you will, as you're trying to get your footing on live trading. So don't be afraid to go back. It's good for you. But anyway, I got off on my tangent here like usual. And this is 40 minutes, and I want to wrap this up and get out of here. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.